So, with the Gamesters of Triskelion, once again we meet godlike aliens for Kirk and crew to deal with. So, even though, now interestingly enough, with these godlike beings, we actually get to see them in their natural state and get a little more detail about them. Even though it's reused matte paintings in the back, but their powers are, superior technology and whatnot, and they've advanced themselves to where basically they're, brains in jars. But apparently they possess psychic powers and telepathy and whatnot. It's far beyond what humanity can understand, but apparently comprehend here. And but as for others like Triskelion and stuff, we never really knew, where do they come from, what are they. You could theoretically just say that they're part of the Q continuum or something like that, and with Charlie X and all that, with these people. With Gary Mitchell, we saw he was almost like a superhero story with his origin of powers and all that. But you don't get a whole lot of detail. And still, even here, you really don't. You kind of see the evidence on the planet where there's these ruins and whatnot, and you don't really know entirely what happened, but that appears to be the past of who the Triskelions were and now what they've become. And they're so powerful that they're just looking for a thrill, and their thrill is gambling. So, and gambling on what? Well, gambling on gladiatorial contests. So really to go that far in advance of themselves to just do that sort of speaks volumes. It's like, boy, we're working hard to progress to a new state of consciousness and whatnot, and you're just gonna make a bunch of enslaved people fight. Yeah, not so great. But anyway, so that's what happens here. So, and once again, no location shots. Didn't need that. All in studio, and it works. It's fine. Alien world and all that. So the Enterprise is investigating or checking in on a unmanned station on this, I guess it's like a dead planet, what have you. It didn't have any life on it and all that. So anyway, Kirk, Uhura, and Chekhov were going to beam down and check in on whatever the Federation had established there, like the unmanned station, whatever it is. I guess check on, make sure everything's running, and do a report, beam back, and then they're off to the next assignment. Well, they get on the transporter pads and then suddenly disappear. Well, that happens all the time, doesn't it? And there's a joke in there, more or less, where Scotty sees this and he's like, holy crap. So he calls up Spock and says, they just disappeared. So Spock says, I assume you mean they vanished in a manner other than merely transporting. And Scotty, well, I wouldn't have called you if that's what happened. It's a pretty good scene. So, turns out so great is the power of these entities is that they're light years away. They were able to teleport or what have you, Kirk and crew, over to this planet. And it takes quite a bit of doing for Spock to figure out where they are. They only had this sort of ion trail to look into and all that, and even to the point that even Scotty and Bones are like, well, I think they're gone. We're going off on this wild goose chase, as he says. Spock, I'm not pursuing some untamed waterfowl or something like that. But Spock thinks he's got the right idea of where they could have gone to. And, of course, he's right. They do find them. Meanwhile, what happened to them? Well, of course, they go to this planet, and they're immediately enslaved. They got to wear these collars that'll torture them if they don't obey. And they've got to be trained to do gladiatorial fights. And because they're so rebellious and whatnot, and they're not as, accepting of their new roles in life as the others are, the Triskelions, or whatever they are, the providers as they recall them, are fascinated with them and start betting. Now, apparently, they had their currency, which is Quatlus. Why do they even have a currency? I don't know. But I guess they do that for the purposes of their entertainment, because they're these immortal godlike beings. They can have anything they want, and they're so bored that it's just the thrill of these fights that gives them anything. And so the betting on the actual currency itself probably doesn't matter at all, but it allows them in the game as they bet against one another as to who could win the fights and all that. So you got some interesting, well, really only two. You got the main sort of, I don't know, slave master or leader or overlord, overseer or whatever. It's this creepy looking vampire dude in the black cloak. But it's an interesting look. I'm not sure what they were thinking with the overall Triskelion symbol there, because it looks like a certain symbol from a terrible political party back in World War II. So maybe that's what they were going for. I don't know, but it's shaped in like the Superman thing. But anyway, he's kind of in charge, or the manager for the providers. And then each one, Uhura and Chekhov and Kirk, are assigned their trainers. Uhura gets and there's a scene there where they almost seem to insinuate that Uhura is being assaulted by her trainer. And the camera kind of pans off. You can hear it, and Kirk is screaming, "What's going on? What's going on?" And you can hear her screaming and stuff. Then later on, they act like she took care of herself and nothing really happened. But it was boy. And it's pretty sinister there for a bit. Chekhov gets this rather large woman who immediately has a crush on him. And he's not into it, poor Chekhov. But Kirk, well, of course, Kirk. He gets the sexy green-haired chick. Who, interesting side note, the woman who played the part of Shauna went on to do porn. Yes, I guess the other roles just didn't come along after Star Trek, and she went into hardcore pornography. Yeah, well, you never know where life's going to take you. You do Star Trek, and the next thing you know. But anyway, so she is in her silver bikini, somehow going to train Kirk in how to fight. But Kirk keeps probing her. Well, I shouldn't use questioning her on things, and she's not supposed to talk about it, but all this. And but eventually, there's got to be a way to find a means to escape, and Kirk decides to use his usual ways of, he's gonna put the action on her and put the moves on her, and does. She's never had love before, never had a kiss before. So he's just immediately making out with her and everything. Now, the cruelest part here is that his first initial escape plan, he lures her in, starts making out with her, and she's all overwhelmed with emotion and everything, and she's kind of almost in a trance, and then he knocks her out. It's just terrible. I mean, I know he's got to get out and got to get his crew and everything. And hey, look, he said he was sorry, And so then he gets the keys to the door, and they try to make it out, but of course, vampire guy shows up and punishes them again. So now they're in trouble, and and Kirk had to, or Uhura was in trouble for, I can't even remember now. Because fighting with her trainer or something like that, but then Kirk says, "I'm in charge, so I gotta take the punishment." So he does, and they all fight him and whatnot. Anyway, you see Kirk and how, wow, what a kick-ass guy he is and all that. And there's several of these in the fights and in their little arena there. But ultimately, Spock and crew, they do find their way there. And finally, Kirk figures out the only way he's really going to do this is that he can't keep seducing Shauna and then beating her up. Jeez. No, he's got to get to the providers, and he offers them a bet. And so and this is how he wins it over this way. Of course, he has to win the actual fight, which wasn't easy. But he promised that his crew would all become thralls, as they called them in their games, or if he wins, they agree to stop the games and train the thralls into becoming, their own civilization, the free individuals and all that, and learn how to take care of themselves and all that. And he says, "I submit you're not up to the challenge." And we can do anything. And he says, "Well, then prove it." So of course Kirk wins, and there you go. the providers decide, well, God damn it, you want. All right, we'll train them. I mean, not to fight anymore, but how to, farm and stuff and, have kids. Whatever. How to, I guess, restore the planet they're on. I don't know. And some of these people, there was even an Andorian in there who should be aware of technology and what. So maybe some of them will be returned home. I don't know. But the ones that don't know any better, the providers are going to have to take them to school, all that type of stuff. So, but meanwhile, Shauna is like, she's all in love with Kirk, despite, But, of course, what does Kirk do? He says, you can't come with me. It's really sad. And he's like, look, it's nothing personal. It was a means to an end. So he beams away, and that's that, and she's sitting there. I'll think of you as I look at the stars and all that, poor Shauna. She was broken and ended up in porn, It's really sad. So anyway, once again, they keep coming to this concept of powerful aliens and all this stuff. But it is interesting enough that the main problem with them is they got bored. And this led them into terrible things of, abducting these people and forcing them into these gladiatorial contests only for their entertainment, because to escape them from their boredom of the state of life they're in. But if there's these godlike beings, you'd think there would be far better challenges for them than to do that. And by losing their ultimate bet, they're now going to do something like that. And hey, maybe something good will come out of that. One could hope. Well, not for poor Shauna, but maybe for the rest. So that in and of itself has a better concept than just, oh no, we're trapped with a godlike being and we have no means of fighting them off. But no, somehow we did, But this one all fits because of their obsession is their undoing. So even though Kirk has no powers, but he outfoxed them. So it works on that level. And again, like I said, you get a little more look behind the scenes of these godlike beings who are basically just brains in a jar. But you get little hints and nods to what they might have been and all that. Whereas others, it's still kind of much of a mystery. But so it works out all the well. And of course, they made use of just basic sets and not having the expense of location shots. And it works, for what it is. All right. Gamesters, no longer of Triskelion.
All right. Thank you for watching and listening. Why not like and subscribe and check out that link description below. That'll take you to my mini stores and have plenty of goodies for you. Hats, mugs, stickers, posters, all that goody stuff. Plus, you can head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book Night Night. Oh, yeah. Plus, you can also catch my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, over at RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on my channel at BitChute. That's the Mr Nailsin channel on BitChute.com.